welcome to my channel. Today we will be talking about the world of false interpretations. My question is, do you have proof for your belief that you're always right and that things are always the way you believe? Now, did you know that if you're good at something, someone will always top you and be better than you, but people will also always be worse than you at the same time? The thing is, the world is too great and there are way too many people out there. What makes you think you're the only one who's right without reasoning it with the environment that you grew up in or that assisted you in making that conclusion? Without that environment that you're in, you would have never believed the things that you do. And here's the fact, everyone has different environments. And when we think we're always right, we also believe that others must be wrong, because the opposite of right is wrong. And in thinking that we're always right, part of arrogance when we think we're better and we know something more. Not always, but for some people. Here's the thing. In nature, in the world, you have no proof for arrogance, and everything in the world goes against the proof of arrogance. Let your ego not control you. Now, ego is this one thing that can be a coping mechanism. It can be there to boost motivation when you're starting off with something, and it can be understandable when you develop it, but it's important to really reflect on it, figure out how you have this ego and why you have it, and also combat it. Because the ego serves as the reason we're not able to make rational decisions and get ahead. And people always like to link ego with success, and I'll tell you the difference here. When you have an ego, the ego is actually that one component that prevents you from thinking logically, intellectually. It will always block your perception in some way, make you think that you're right. The ego prevents you from self-reflecting, from apologizing, from looking within you and working with what's inside of you. And that creates the biggest problems in your life. The ego is the unfair part of us, the part that makes us believe that we hold power when there is none. The ego is that part of us that refuses to reflect what's within us. Also, when anyone mistreats you, when anyone is unfair, when anyone hurts you in any way, which is really, really unfair, and you should feel upset by that, then that unfair treatment is actually through their ego, because they're not able to use the intellect, basically closes that door or mixes the actual intellect into something that isn't true. So it's very dangerous, but the ego should be there partially. So there's a minimal amount of ego required. Let me tell you why. Let's assume you want to start a degree or you want to start a company, you want to do something risky. You will never start unless you have a tiny bit of ego that gives you the confidence that you're able to make it. Because thinking that you're able to make it is not purely logical. If you were to see everything around you, then you would think, okay, so logically, I don't have all the information in the world, I don't have all the intellect in the world, so there's a low likelihood that I will be able to make it. So that's why the ego is important to get you started in some things, but it should never get out of control because it can absolutely damage your life, affect your actions, and create things like narcissism and other things, other issues that some people go through. Solving this solves 90% of the world's problems if people were to dim down on their ego, because it is a part of us, but it is a very dangerous part of us. And if there's too much, it can only cause harm. Now, I want you to know that you're no different than anyone else in the world. Everyone makes bad experiences, everyone has traumas of some sort, mental problems that they can develop if they went through the same as someone else did. And everyone has made experiences. You're nothing special for not making a bad experience. Or, I mean, the only one who makes a bad experience, but you're um, allowed to work on it, be there for yourself, but you always have to know that everyone in the world, aside from you, also have to work hard for everything that they have, the situations they've had, and overcome them. Although it's really hard. And now you might think that some people had it easy, but I want to tell you that each side of the coin brings its own setbacks and difficulties. For example, someone who's been through difficulties develop some type of intellect, they develop strength that someone who will never develop. And these people have the opportunity to get ahead in ways that the others didn't. You'll never know what anyone is going through, and everyone has to face difficulties in no matter which part of the world they're in, what they're experiencing, what you see from the surface. I heard a quote which goes like the following. If you were in a room with people, with all people that you know, and truly saw life from their lenses and everything they experience, you would wish to have your own life back. Because your own life is the amount that you alone can manage, the amount that you alone can survive, and no one can live the life that you are living and no one can tolerate someone else's life. You can only tolerate the life you have. So, to conclude this part, everyone has difficulties. And this brings me to my second point. Your choices and your moral compass come from two things: your experiences and the way you interpreted them. Life is all about interpretations, how you choose to perceive it. However, others may have perceived a situation differently from you, even if they experienced the same, because they chose to perceive it differently. You're different from others, and other people are different from you. And it all boils down to our interpretations. And our interpretations always make sense. And this explains why we're so different. Everyone's interpretation makes sense. Everyone makes sense. Everyone. Everyone, whatever they think, whatever they say makes sense to the limitation of how much they let their ego come into play, their experiences, everything, or their psychological circumstances, because some people have psychological problems. And we're different because of, first of all, different experiences, because no life is identical to another, and different interpretations and perceptions or conclusions based on our lives. This is why you can't judge or look down on others, because perhaps if you were in their shoes, you would have done most likely the same thing, made the same choices, and done the exact same thing as them. We didn't pick the locations we were born in, nor the families we belong to, nor the cultures. This is why any type of discrimination makes absolutely no sense, because what are we discriminating against if that person is human and you are human and your functions are exactly the same and none of you chose where you were born? So if they were in your shoes and you were in theirs, you would have done the exact same. You would have had the exact same faith, the exact same mindset, and you would perform the same way and have the same beliefs that you're currently judging. If you want to be a fair person and a powerful person, then you have to factor out the location, environment of your upbringing, and race to judge something, if only if you're truthful, because anything else isn't fair. I'll give you a little example. If you follow a faith or a mindset just because you grew up somewhere else, does this claim about you being right make it valid? Is it a valid claim about you being right about that faith in any shape, way, or form? If your belief system is so sensitive about where you came from, would your belief system break down if you were in someone else's shoes and saw the whole picture? Because if you were, let's say, you come from the West, but you lived in India, or you lived somewhere in the Arabic countries, or somewhere in a different, completely different continent, um, you would have experienced a completely different faith, okay? And if you'd see the faith, you would see the whole picture of that faith instead of the whole picture of your faith. Let's say if you're in the West. Um, would your beliefs be different? So if you're fair and you really want to discriminate, then look into things that without factoring in all the environmental aspects and societal impacts that you have received by belonging to a certain place and being born in a specific location. This is exactly why it makes no sense to discriminate against anyone, look down on anyone, because it could have always been you. And this person you're judging is doing the exact same thing towards you because he or she believes that they are right, just like you do. So, to conclude, we're stuck in a world where each of us believe that we are right and everyone else is wrong. In other words, we're the same. There's absolutely no difference. We're just judging each other based on the location we were born in. Is there any logic in this? Is this logical in any way, shape, or form? We believe in our observations so much. It shows that we're so close-minded. We're identical to each other, and there's absolutely no difference between us. We're different versions of each other. And do you see it? If you discriminate against someone else on the other side of the world and they discriminate against you, you two are the exact same and you both are wrong because it's not possible for you both to be right. So you're led by your own perceptions and your entire worldview. That limits you. And this brings me to perceptions, a very, very strong term. You are led by your world perception as if you're wearing your perception glasses that show you the world that you want to believe it is, but may not even be true. This is where the problem arises. when you're so deeply stuck within your perceptions that you fail to see what really exists and what is true or false. Your perception dictates your everything, your actions, your imagination. Imagine that the laws of the world is completely different from your perception because you're guided by false perceptions. Don't you think this could cause any problems? Let's say, for example, you have a perception and the world is a different way, a certain way, and you have your perception of what's really going on and what's the truth. Don't you think, or like, let me ask you, do you think it could clash? Yes, it actually clashes, and let me explain why. When you have a false perception and are only guided by your perception versus reality, reality and your perception does clash and it will make your life extremely random. It will make it so random that things will happen in your life and you will not understand why they're happening, where are they coming from. And I've seen this with many, many people out there. Things happen out of the blue and everyone is shocked. And what happens over time is that fear starts to creep in, that dims in your perceptions more, which is not what's supposed to happen. But because of the different perception versus reality that you've let happen, instead of learning what life is about, it starts to really clash together. Because you have given life and nature rules that don't actually exist and aren't universal. And you know what this can also lead to? This leads to misunderstandings with people and can really affect your worldview. You will see people or every interaction you have in a completely different dimension. You will easily get affected by triggers of terminology and actions, interpret them in a way that aren't true. So when the fear creeps in, and you've categorized experiences into little boxes in your mind that when this and this happens, it means there's like causation. Correlation isn't causation, right? But if you believe that it is causation at all times, and you've categorized experiences of your past in boxes, because that's what you think learning about life is, and I think that's what 99% of all people do, it leads to fear, misunderstandings, random life, and can really, really create triggers in you. And these triggers are basically, let's say you've experienced something in your past and that was very painful. You know, we all experience terrible things, especially with different people, with other people, and it's affected you deeply. And if you see a similar pattern or you see something similar come to you later in life, it creates a trigger in you. You're most likely to pick it up from that box and it will be a trigger that makes you think the same way and you can't control yourself or get out of it. And so you've put yourself in a little matrix. So, yes, you will get affected by triggers and interpret them in ways that aren't true. For those of you, let me say that life and its people are far more diverse than you can possibly imagine. One experience you make won't actually dictate your life and your destinies. One experience you've made isn't universally true for the other billion people you'll never meet. But we end up categorizing people or making false perceptions of things when we're fearful of the unknown. This is a limiting factor that we incorporate into our minds that deeply affect our life and the way we perceive things. This limiting factor closes any door for new experiences and inputs because instead of trying to understand life or being open to experiences, all we do is judge and set our minds in boxes where we think this is exactly the way I think it is, and that might not even be true. We think we have it all figured out. I don't know at what age this happens. Maybe it's at a very young age, but we grow up with the mindset that we have it all figured out. That's impossible. Logically speaking, that's impossible. Let's assume we live 100 years. How is a person who's lived 100 years supposed to figure out a universe, laws, anything that's been existing for over billions of years? Makes no sense and it's not true. So the most logical and rational approach would be to take things and see what they are instead of believing you have it all figured out, because again, that's where the ego is too big, because there is absolutely no logic in it. No logic in believing you have it all figured out, especially at a very young age. Let's call it 20, or let's even call it 40. And this actually closes doors. This closes our doors, and we experience the same and the same and the same over and over again. And I want to tell you something very interesting. I don't think you've heard it before. And this is something that I've realized about life. And I will tell you now. When you make the same and same and same experiences over and over again, you know what this actually is? It's as though we are an avatar in a video game or any game, and we failed that level. We were defeated in that level. The level repeats. You don't actually lose the whole game. The level repeats. The level repeats and keeps repeating until you learn that lesson. It will keep repeating that same level. So that is an experience where some people actually have experienced the same thing over and over again, and it wasn't they were open-minded, and it wasn't because of something um, categorized in their minds. That's also an option. But you haven't learned a single lesson. There is a specific lesson that you have to learn to progress to the next level, and then to progress to the next level. And I will talk to you about it and what exactly that is in another video. Um, so stay tuned and tell me if you're interested in it, because I can really help you to progress to level, let's say 100 immediately. So I have a trick for you. Yes, but like coming back to this topic, the issues also arise when we have interactions with people and we fail to comprehend that more perception exists aside of ours, and that we believe that everyone shares the same perception as us. That's the most basic thought that we have. Everyone's like, no, we don't think anyone is like us. We think there's bad and good people, right? We always have this thought. It's the term that we believe in the most, right? That there's good and bad people. But then at the same time, we also believe that everyone is supposed to share our perception, and they can't have an opinion on their own. And every opinion that they have that we don't share, they're the bad ones. But if someone, like for example, someone shares the same perception as yours, they're your friend, they're the good ones, just because you guys are a bit similar. So it's very interesting to really think about this. And so we always believe that our life perception or like perspective is so true and applicable to everyone. And one more thing, strangely, we also, at least most of the time, interpret that we are the angels in our perception and perceive others as flawed. And that's also a big part of our perception game. We are always, or at least most of the time, the angels. And if we don't think that, we don't um, care actually, or we have a reason, we justify, rationalize our behaviors. Now, let me ask you if that's really rational. I will discuss this in another topic if you like to talk about it. I can also include things in one video if you prefer that. So let me know, but it's just going to be a lot longer. So we always assume that we are the angels in our perceptions, and we believe that others are flawed. For example, we see a specific action made or done by another, sorry, performed by another person, and immediately categorize them to be flawed, good, bad. And through our perceptions, we have created definitions of people. We have defined all people and colored them the way children color drawings in their books or characters in their books. We have associated people with things that we have seen. Now you might think, well, that's normal. What else could it do? That's what we're capable of and do. It makes sense that you think this way. But what if I tell you that in doing so, you have a 90% probability of being wrong at all times? The moment you meet someone, like just coloring people based on the trigger points, the way you categorize them, like coloring them in. Um, there's a 90% probability of being wrong. For anyone who's done statistics or studies statistics in school, is it likely of you to be right by coloring people in? No. Would it be worth seeing the people this way and then quickly categorizing them? Or would it be helpful in forming any, like, relations, networking, and progressing in your careers this way? Also, no, it likely wouldn't. I would like to share a different approach with you all. One approach would be to not judge people based on the differences you've realized about them. Don't even be close to judging them. Delete the boxes you have set in your head, because this box that you've created in your mind is only limiting you. Okay, it's actually the biggest reason for your limitations, as like I've just explained. So, you are never able to see people for what they are. You keep putting yourself in a matrix and you keep spiraling downwards. I will call it matrix because this has been a very modern word used the last few years for a system in the world that is limiting us. But actually, we're the ones that have to understand that we're the ones limiting ourselves and blaming the outside. And that's what we always do. We always blame something that we cannot control because we fail to take responsibility for ourselves. If we point fingers at anyone, it's an excuse. Sounds rough, okay? But it's important that you know that. Because look, at the end of the day, our life is short and we only live once, okay? Yeah, okay, like people have different theories about life and like, okay, maybe I'll be born again. Yes, but no matter what, The only proof that we have in this world that no one can refute is that the only truth, you could refute everything they talked about in history, anything. There's no proof in our world about life except death, or that we will end up leaving this world at some point. That is the biggest truth, and the biggest truth is also that we were born. So yeah, there's nothing else, and no one can deny that. So yeah, um, based on that, you really need to know that it's best to live and not create boxes, because when you have these boxes, it's you're never gonna see life for what it is. And we're here for such a short time. Now, I know it feels long, but everyone I've met who has lived for over 60 years, 50 years, has said that life passed like a blink, like blinking an eye, like blink of an eye, or like a short journey that they've been on, like a train ride, or a little, as being a tourist in a city and then coming back. That's how life feels, and it goes faster than we think. And truly, we should be open to seeing life, to understanding what's really out there. And when we create these boxes, we're just looking at what other people are doing. They've created boxes. Okay, other people judge. We should judge because they know what's best. But no, the oldest people, the ones who've lived life the most, are a little over 100 years old. I mean, the ones currently living on Earth, a little over 100 years. And what are 100 years compared to how long this world has existed for? Maybe we're all lost. We're all lost and we're trying to figure things out. And that's why, just based on this fact, it's important for us to be sympathetic with people. Empathetic, in fact, not even sympathetic. We have to be understanding. We have to be loving. We have to know that we're all going through this very strange, interesting journey. But also, why is life a terrible place for us sometimes? Life is terrible for us because there's some lost souls that we're dealing with. People that are lost, that don't know, that don't understand the world, that are confused about the world, just like us, but maybe even more so. And they don't know how to behave, so they have attachments, they become narcissistic because they're confused, they've experienced things, they have psychological problems. This is what makes our life worse. Or competition and all of these things, or setting value to things that aren't valuable, setting things value that or creating value in things that we can't reach. So it's actually a really sad truth. Instead of really seeing what's there and enjoying every moment of life and understanding that life is there for everyone, each one of us, we're all here, we're like a selected handful of, let's say, okay, we're almost 8 billion people. But if you compare it to how big the universe is, how much exists out there, we're like there. And the fact, the probability of having a human like birth is like, it's a miracle. The probability is so low. So we all came to experience life. And if we're all becoming like enemies towards each other, where is this gonna lead us? It's actually really sad. And the fact that we're becoming more and more divided, it's just, yeah, it's just really sad. But I just want you to know that once you're able to really see life for what it is, you will truly feel like you have a purpose. You will feel lighter, you will feel relaxed, and you can achieve your dreams. You're allowed to have dreams. You're allowed to want to be successful. You're allowed to want a happy relationship, children, whatever you want. You know, it's human nature. But you have to understand that you're not supposed to become an enemy to everyone else just because you have dreams, because everyone is the same. It is like you're being an enemy to yourself when you're being an enemy to anyone in the world. Anyone, you know? Of course, there's people who do terrible, terrible, terrible things, who have psychological problems, or just are cruel and all of this. Yes, there are such people. Just you don't have to think about them. You don't have to focus on people who are actually really, really terrible. And if you have such people in your life, it's best to just move on and just don't even pretend to be nice to them. Don't show, like, if you don't want them in your life, you just cut it off. And if you have emotions towards people who are really, really, really terrible to you, and you have feelings for them and you love them, you always have to think that you're not supposed to let you're harming yourself in that, because you have to respect yourself in a way that you don't harm yourself. But of course, you have to be respectful towards the other person. You have to be empathetic, but you have to keep your mental health first, because if your mental health goes down, you might start doing the same, because we humans are like, anyone hurts us or anything happens, it creates a butterfly effect. Anything good, someone does anything good, it creates a butterfly effect. And it holds true for negativity as well, because we're social animals, okay? And so if you're doing, if you experience something really bad with a person and you stay there, you don't know what's going to do, what it's going to do to your mental health. Maybe it's going to create some type of trauma in you. Maybe it's going to harm you in a very bad way, because a hurt person or someone who's like has issues, they're like they're complete people, but there is a defect in them. And if you have a defect, let's say machine or something, it's not going to perform well, and it's going to cause problems. And if you're willing to take that problem and make it your own problem, then because you're human, you could pass it on without even noticing, um, unless you really really reflect and heal and everything. But most of us, we don't do that. We're too distracted to look at within ourselves and correct what we've experienced in the past, and we pass it on. And that's what exactly what I'm talking about, the whole ego thing, the perception thing, because these are boxes we create based on our experiences. And I really want you to let that go and really look inside of yourself, but firstly accept it too. But like, going back to what I was saying, that yeah, to continue the point I was saying, I want you to know that people come in two forms. We always say good and bad, good and bad, good and bad. There's no such thing. You have to see it as, is the person good for me or is the person bad for me? Like, similar to what I just talked about. Um, and here's how you figure that out. Every person chases a purpose, whether they have a purpose or not. Every person has an objective. And if you have, you also have a life objective. And if someone's life objective, let's say a narcissistic person, okay? That's a big topic in today's world, okay? If you have a narcissistic person and their life purpose, I don't know too much about narcissists, but they want things their way. They want everyone to be dependent on them. They want to have power. They want to be liked. They want validation, right? So that is their life objective. Is this something that that matches well with you? Could they harm you in any way? If yes, then it's best to stay away. You have to respect them because they're going through things. You have to stop thinking they're the worst negative people. Da, da, da. It's actually a mental condition because it develops over time and it becomes a mental issue. And it's also the way they chose to interpret the world, and they feel very, very bad about it on the inside. They're experiencing what they put out to the world. They experience the feelings that they put out in the world. They're not satisfied within themselves, and I promise you, you feel better than them on the inside. So call it pity, look, like, feel sorry for them for being so lost, but do not um, hate them. Just be like, okay, they are a little defective person at the moment, or they're very lost, and because it doesn't align with your life objectives, or based on their life objectives, they're most likely going to harm you than do you any good, you can leave them. And you don't have to be around them. It's so much about compatibility in every aspect of your life. And you will know that they will betray you based on their life objectives. You will know that because their life objective is this. If you meet a different person and their life objective is doing good, spreading positivity, that person is least likely to betray you. And I'll tell you one thing, there's people who don't trust anyone in the world because of their negative experiences, okay? Because of the pain that they've experienced and everything. They don't trust any person in the world. And it makes sense. You know, it's like a rational decision that they think that they made. But I'll tell you this, if you know that, I want you to know that every person in the world is trustworthy, but they're trustworthy to their life objective, always. So if someone's life objective is, let's say, to be a good person towards everyone they meet, create positive impact, then they very likely won't betray you because they're trustworthy. But if that person that wants to spread positivity and love and be there for people has someone tell them to betray someone with them, accompany them into betraying someone, they will not be a trustworthy person because they will break their trust because their life objective is to spread positivity, and the opposite is true. So a person who's very focused on selfishness or harming people, you can't trust that person. So even if you love someone, if you think they're the most amazing person because you love them unconditionally, even if they have flaws, you have to be careful who you trust. And um actually, I'll tell you something even deeper than that. There's no logic in trusting someone, and there's no logic in mistrusting anyone in the world. Why? Because you have to understand their life objective, and only when you understand the life objective, which you can read by reading the person, will you know, will they be loyal to me or not? And that's all you need to know. That's it. And if you have a friend whose objective is to achieve, let's say, like a normal person, and they're also your friend, and they love you, and you can see it with their actions, through their actions, they've been there for you, then you can trust them with certain things. But you can't trust them with everything. Maybe they have a weakness, maybe their life goal is, I don't know. You need to figure that out based on the person because everyone is different, you know? And so, and how do you read someone? So, when you meet someone, the probability thing I was talking about, instead of categorizing them into good and bad, what you do is someone comes into your life, you learn about them. So you make a bin or like a category in your mind as a box. Instead of good, bad, or da da da, no, throw that out of the window. You make one, let's say it's a friend, okay? You met someone, her name is Alex. You meet Alex, and the more you get to know about her, the more you put it in that Alex box, okay? Not the good and the bad. You list down her, like put down her actions too. But every good or bad thing you see of her, put it in a different box. Not in the Alex box. Anything that causes a trigger in you, put in a separate box. And so whatever you like, any interaction you have with her, anything you experience with her, you will start to see a full image of who Alex is. You will start to see what her life objectives are. And because you're not judging, and so you will actually separate their actual character with the actions they do and any attachments they have that might be harming them. You will be able to read them better than they read themselves, right? And that's important. For a good person, it's important to be able to read people who might harm us. We have to be really good at reading people. And you will be able to see that person for who they are and their shortcomings based on their experiences. And this is exactly how you increase your probability of being correct about someone and their intentions. And I'll give you a little example about me. There's people that I know for over 20 years, you know, family, friends, friends 15, okay? Any friends that I have, like close friends that I've been seeing, and I have not judged a single person into being good or bad. I have not judged them based on any triggers. I have never judged a single friend, a single person. Yeah, you will be able to see their shortcomings based on their experiences. You will see them for who they are, okay? And so, yeah, that's exactly what I've been doing in my life. And yes, it works really well. I don't have categories, and yeah. And you can see people for who they are, and you will never hate them because you'll always understand them too. And you will be able to read yourself if you start categorizing them, you'll see the triggers. But for some people, they need to undo all the triggers that they've set in their minds, and that is a very difficult task to do. Unlike, for example, myself, who's never created categories before. So, to the next point. Doing this is how you can increase the probability of being correct about someone and their intentions. Even if you, at some point, you want to judge someone, you will have a clearer picture and you will have a higher probability of being right than just having them do something based on something you've experienced and labeling them with a highlighter into red or green based on your experience, or putting them in the box of good and bad person, or flawed person, or my person and not my person, you know? So, in this way, we can distinguish them for the person, because if we focus on the bad parts of a person, we likely only see their bad parts. And if we see the good in a person, we only judge them for the good in them. That's about it, because it can lead to a type of blindness, a type of perception, and this is wrong. Another way we and all humans are the same because we do the exact same. We categorize others. Okay, now I would like to ask you another question, which is, why do you persist so much on your experience being the most important one that is always right? Again, does that make any logical sense considering the fact that we have over 7 billion people who have made experiences, who have a specific perception, who have all of this, but we persist on the things that we believe in? Does this make sense? Sometimes you have to unlearn everything to learn. So, is that experience you're living worth ignoring everything else that anyone else is experiencing? Does the random choice of your birthplace have such a big significance in the world that you have to fight all your life defending it? You need to strongly have faith in the things that make most sense. See, another word for perception is that in nature, the more you think you know, the less you really do, and truly do. As you can see in this example here, we don't know much. So when we're learning about someone, that knowledge must be a building type of knowledge, where their actions don't easily shift our perception of them, but we add more layers of their facts. And if it shifts to perception immediately, it means you have to work on your understanding of perspectives and of those people. You have to work on your triggers, and there's some healing required in you. So in another video, I was talking about the importance of our emotions serving as signals that indicate many things about ourselves, such as triggers, emotions, perspectives, but we actively neglect emotions of sadness and repress them too. However, they're really, really useful as indications of our own required healing, and they also heal us. And see that perception is the only thing that shapes, that really, really, really shapes us. So, it shapes our reality, it shapes our mindset, it shapes everything around us. And as you can see, it's so important and it's the thing that we don't even think about. It is the main cause of conflicts around the world, both on a micro level and a macro level. It is the only thing that if you lose control over, others can influence you, like a puppet, and change things about you and around you. If someone's really good at influencing, they can actually change your perceptions and you become a puppet. Isn't that concerning? Isn't that kind of scary? If you really think about it, it's really, really scary. And there are people who are intelligent, who see things on a deeper level, and they can take over you. They can take that power over you. They can really take you and make you their puppet. And you will spend your entire life living like a little puppet. It's really scary, but hopefully that doesn't happen to anyone. So that's why it's very important for you to question your environment. Question the knowledge people share because there are people out there who understand psychology, actually psychology specifically better than us, and they know things of a human nature on a deeper level. And you will never know who it is. You can't know. See, that's again a scary thing. Some people will also know how to say less about themselves that you will never figure out what type of people they are. And even if you're building that knowledge, you can't know. So, but you have to be good at this because that can tell you a lot. And most people are not so good at it. So, see, but like perception is a very underestimated topic and it covers our entire lives. And if we truly understand the wisdom behind perception, not even one of us would fall into becoming a victim to conflict or ill feelings towards other people. We would most likely become more helpful than cutting off ties. We would never hate anyone. We would understand everyone, and everyone would understand us too. It would be like living in some paradise. We would understand when we know the truth. And this is the truth. This is why we're in conflict because we don't know the truth. We don't know how to communicate. We don't know how to love. We've forgotten how to love. We intentionally forget how to love when we've experienced a few heartbreaks because we don't understand life. We experience heartbreaks and that's it. We never want to go back. We forget how to love because that part of us, not in this world. This world is too black. This world is too painful. Let's forget how to love. Um, yeah, and unfortunately, this is not how it was meant to be. You know what? Many people believe that their understanding of nature makes them inferior or shows that they don't have self respect in society. If they're loving, if they're loving, if they love, if they're there for others, that means, especially nowadays, we say that, especially I guess in the West, we say that if you, because it's an individualistic society, so it's like if you're there for people, if you're loving, and if you're so caring, you have no self-respect. But that couldn't be further from the truth. You know what it shows? It shows emotional maturity when you're understanding. If you see the depth of a person, it doesn't indicate a lack of self-respect, but a high form of respect towards your environment, and it indicates humbleness. It shows emotional maturity in the sense that their behaviors and limitations of other people don't wear you down. It reflects that you have the ability to see things on a deeper level, and this reflects your emotional and mental stability and control. Anyone saying that this is weak isn't right. However, the action you take after this depends on you and the situation you're facing. See, it is worth telling them about your perspective, and that must be the most difficult thing to do, conveying your perspective. Oh my gosh. Because when people have designed their perspectives like ink on a paper, it is almost impossible for you or them to prove anyone wrong. So, what do you do? If you understand a person's perspective, address this first. Talk from their perspective. And once you've reached that level of them, like understanding their perception and talking from their perspective, then mention the actual differences of their perception and with your reality. And that's how people will understand you, despite the triggers, despite categorizing you. You have to sometimes untangle what they've tangled. Because at the end of the day, we all have triggers, we have all perceived things, we all have all of these triggers, as I mentioned. And all of this is kind of really, really harmful for us. But this video has become really long. And if you don't mind, I can keep going, but I would like you to tell me in the comment section if I should keep these videos together and long, or I should make like part one, part two. But I will end it right here, and I will tell you how to have people see things from your side, so we can create a more peaceful world, so we can understand others better and spread love much more efficiently. And so I'm going into like really the details of understanding people's perception, how to have them understand yours and you understand theirs, and how to untangle, dismantle the perceptions that have formed your life by now. um and just letting you know that for those who are religious or have faith in God, God really loves this. So, and those who just want to attract good things from the nature, I want you to know that the nature really supports this. So when you're loving, when you're fair, everyone's happy. So yeah, and I want you to know that despite everything you're facing, every difficulty you're facing, you're doing a good job, okay? You're doing a really, 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 really good job, and you should be proud of yourself. You should be proud of yourself, be happy, and actually live in the moment. We're so stressed about tomorrow, we're so stressed about the next days, we're so stressed about what's coming for us because there's so much we have to achieve, and everyone is put into this pressure of achieve, achieve, achieve. But honestly, just take a moment and enjoy. You're going to manage everything, you're going to be able to dismantle all of those triggers, those good, those bad, this discrimination that you've learned, and life will feel at peace. You will feel great, and at the end of the day, you will find your purpose too. So, a good purpose that will really serve you and make you happy. So, I'm really excited to help you in this journey and also grow myself, like become a better person, and help myself too. So, have a lovely, lovely day, everyone, and I would love to hear any recommendations based on topics you want to hear. Anything, hate, love, purpose. I've mentioned these big topics that shape our entire world, but anything more specific, like how should I treat people, how to become more at peace, anything else, or like daily motivation, because I will be so happy to motivate all of you. So let me know, and I wish you a great day. Remember not to take anything at heart. Have a lovely day, and they say live in a state of meditation, and what this means is live in a state of enjoying the moments, what's around you. Look at the sun go out. Look at okay, don't look directly into the sun, but go outside and look at the birds chirping, the winds, just feel everything, the trees, the colors around you. Like, I love colors. The small things that we fail to appreciate because we're so busy chasing things. So go out and enjoy them. Enjoy the beauty of the night as well as the beauty of the day. And I mean it figuratively as well as literally. So, yes, wishing you a lovely day, and see you. See you in the next video. Okay, so bye bye.